We're building.
If everyone would silence their cell phone and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome one and all. We've got a busy morning here, starting with a work session. And we have called it to order and done the pledge. And first on our list after that is Min Prairie update on transition planning. Hi, Tara. Welcome. Thanks for being here this morning, bright and early.
Well, thanks to Tina, I made it in the building.
Oh, there's you go. Oh, shoot.
All right. So one of the things that I'm going to plan to do over the rest of this year is to provide a quarterly update to your county board about kind of where things are at with the transition of Mid Prairie. So just have a few things that I wanted to share today, kind of what steps we're taking as far as transition planning. So I'm meeting with my management team at this point every 2 weeks, and we're scheduling what we're calling transition planning meetings. So we're kind of going through the steps and figuring out, right now we're figuring out what is it that we need to do. Who are we going to designate as the responsible person for that to ensure it gets done? And as we are working through this, we're keeping 3 priorities in mind. So one is employee retention. We'll touch a little bit about that in a minute. I think one of the biggest priority right now is really just developing a recommended 2-county org chart that we'll be able to bring forward. Really feel like we need to know what that's going to look like. That will impact a lot of our planning. And then external communication. And so right now with external communication, you probably haven't seen a lot, and that has been intentional. The state at this point has not come forward and said, yep, we can make this happen in 1/1/27 transition dates. And I'm hesitant to push too much external communication out until we know that's actually going to be the date that the state can make it happen. We've had this is kind of jumping ahead, but we did have our first meeting with the state, and they shared with us that there are 23 systems that they have to essentially pull us apart in. And so it's going to be a large undertaking. So they did say that they were working towards the 1/1/27 requested date, but they were not in a position yet where they were ready to commit to that. So once we have a commitment from the state, then you'll start to see some additional external communication. But really, we don't want to confuse our providers and confuse our clients by sending them letters and telling them that things are going to happen, and then turn around and say, just kidding, that's not going to happen. Not at that timeline, anyhow.
Tara, can I jump in for just a second and ask, was Steele County in on that?
They were.
Okay. And their response was they're going to be ready anyway?
Essentially.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
All right. So then employee retention, I did show our employee retention trends back through 2024. So you can see we had pretty steady employee retention up until the past few months, probably the last 6 months or so. And then we've continued to see a steady drop, and we continue to see that. We do exit interviews with all of our employees, and it's really becoming the common trend that employees are leaving because of the uncertainty. They're not sure. Well, we like to believe that everyone will have a job at the end of this, either with Mid Prairie or Steele County. They don't feel confident enough that that might be the case. And so we're starting to see people leave because they need stability in their lives. They have families to feed. And so I'm trying to engage with Steele County to establish a plan that might allow us to have them start hiring employees, human service employees, that we would then contract back so that we can continue to do all the work. Because at some point, otherwise, we're not gonna be able to continue to hire staff. We can't hire staff and say we're gonna train. I mean, most of our positions take a year or two to even fully train somebody in. And so we're really getting to that point where it's gonna be difficult to backfill positions, which means our current employees are going to be very overworked. And then that's only gonna lead to additional resignations. So I am currently meeting with Steele County monthly at this point. They're kind of in a place where they're on hold right now. They're working to hire their human service director. And I think that once they have a human service director on board, that we'll start to see additional forward progress, moving it maybe a little bit more, a little quicker speed probably.
Yeah. Would it help? Maybe wouldn't help as far as knowing our structure, how our structure is going to look. Maybe you're going to hit on that yet, but as far as we don't really know solidly how many employees we're going to be.
Right.
Did you have a flow sheet made up? Have you planned a flow sheet, how it's gonna look? Just to see this.
So I have one in the works and we're presenting our first, okay, so backing up a little bit. I'll get to that, 1 second.
Alright.
So one of the things, so to lead up to that, one of the things that our joint powers board did at our last meeting was establish a transition planning committee. So that we have a committee that we can take some of these transition topics to, that have the right commissioners at the table. So a Dodge commissioner and a Waseca commissioner. So I do have, we're finalizing our first draft recommendation and intend to present that to our transition committee on the 9th. And so we should have at least an initial draft, and then we'll have to kind of see how far apart are we from what you're envisioning and what we're recommending. And then we're actually trying to do a fairly quick turnaround at this point. So we're meeting again as a transition planning committee on the 12th. So we've got a meeting on the 9th and the 12th. That'll give us a few days to take the feedback from the commissioners, turn things around. My goal, and it's a probably hefty goal, and I don't know if it's going to succeed, but I'm hoping that we can bring a recommendation to our joint powers board in March. April might be more realistic, but we'll know more once we have those transition planning committees and kind of know where are we at in alignment with our joint powers board commissioners.
And Tara and staff did put together several models in May of 2025 that we had that joint powers meeting between, or joint meeting, I should say, between Dutch and Waseca County. So there's certainly some models out there. It's a little bit of refining taking place, I'm sure. At this point, as the target is still somewhat moving, but there's definitely some good models to refer to that we have.
Right. Sure.
Yes.
That's how we came to the decision that we felt like we could still function as a 2-county human services, was that work we did back in May, looking at what it could look like. And that's when we determined that this could work. So.
So then connecting back to your question, Commissioner Christopherson, I'm not sure. I think if we were able to put forward a org chart at the same time that Steele County was putting forward an org chart, that would help staff retention because they could see
Where they
how many positions are in each. I don't know that it's beneficial for us to delay ours while we wait for them. But I do have concerns that staff will be looking at that seniority list, and once they know exactly how many positions in their job classification are going to be available, they're going to start doing the math and do I fit or not. And the thing that we've been reminding staff is that, if I'll just use 10 as a simple number, if there are 10 positions and you're 12th on the seniority list, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have a place in Prairie, because there's going to be a lot of movement. You don't know that those 10 people want to stay at Mid Prairie. Some may want to apply at Steele County. Some may want to go to a different county. Some may want to go to a completely different employer, do something totally different. And some may want to retire. We have folks that are in that area, could could retire. So trying to help staff know that what the list looks like right now and what it looks like 6 months from now could be completely different. So I know that that is, when you're thinking about your own well-being and you want to make sure that you have a paycheck coming in, that it's hard to, it's a gamble. Yes, that risk to take, but we're trying our best to ensure staff that there's still going to be a lot of movement. And as much as we'd like to keep the focus off the seniority list, there really is a high interest in watching that.
Sure, I appreciate the messaging that you're doing around that though, because that is not the be all and end all of how things are gonna end up, because there's people high up on that list that no doubt want to stay at Steel. They've been there for a long time. They live there. They want to stay there.
Right.
And so, yeah, thanks for thinking around that and making sure you have clear messaging for employees.
We're doing our best.
I know we are, Tara. I appreciate it.
I don't think you should wait for steel, just get ours done. At least people have an understanding. That uncertainty right now is what I think is one of the minds.
I don't want to wait for them to release theirs. We need to keep ours moving. So I appreciate your feedback on that. So I mentioned that I'm currently meeting with Steele County once a month. Those meetings have been with their administrator and their human resource director. And I do think that those meetings have been positive. I do get the sense that they do want to work together. It's been going better than maybe I anticipated. So they've been going good. Some of the things that are going to be kind of early on in 2026 here, we have several state grant applications that are coming due this spring and early summer. So between like May and June, we'll have our Adult Mental Health Initiative, Community Support Program, and Mobile Crisis Grants. All those applications are going to be due. And so when we did meet with the states I think it was on the 23rd, I did share some of those timelines, and then that's kind of the timeline for when we need to know if the state's going to be able to commit to that 1/1/27 date, because we need to know how are we moving forward with these applications that are going to be due at the state level. And then we've been taking a look at contracting and what is that going to look like. Which vendors will be contracted with Steel, which ones will be contracted with Mid Prairie. And then we've had a little bit of discussion on the asset distribution, but it's been fairly minimal at this point. Just another positive around that. We were working on a grant for Families First with Olmsted County as the host, and there's I think like 4 or 5 counties in the region that are going in with Olmsted County to apply for this. And so we actually pulled in the contract manager from Olmsted County and the Steele County administrator and had a discussion about how do they want to move this forward. And again, it was a very positive discussion. They wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to make sure that the people in their communities had the services that they needed. And they indicated that they would. It's because it's a grant that's gonna start in 26, but then it's going to go into 27. And so I don't know how Olmsted decided to officially word it, but essentially like Mid Prairie will be an applicant, but then Steele County will be an applicant once that gets there. So we have had some good positive conversations, and I do think things are going good at this point, as well as they can. Like I said, I think once they have a human service director on board, we'll be able to see things moving forward a little bit more quickly. And then I touched on that meeting that we had with the state, and yeah, so that meeting with the state did include Mid Prairie. I brought in our human resources manager and our finance manager to that meeting. Steele County was there, HMA, Steele County's consulting firm was there, and then there was representation from both DHS and DCYF. And I know that there's a plan to continue to meet on a regular basis, and I can't remember the frequency that we determined, if it was like once a month maybe, or every. But those meetings will continue on a regular basis as well. And then I touched on the transition planning committee, but it didn't touch on the deliverables. So some of the key deliverables from that transition planning committee are really to work on that 2-county org chart. And then our joint powers agreement and our bylaws will need to be updated to reflect the 2-county agency as opposed to the 3-county. So those are kind of the key things. I'm sure we'll run into other smaller things as we go through that we'll want to bring forward to the transition planning committee and get feedback. But those are going to be the big 3. Questions I can answer for you.
Any additional questions for Tara? Thanks for your patience as we interrupted here. You stayed right on track. Go ahead, sir. Did you have your hand up? No? Oh, sorry.
Maybe we did.
Maybe.
Tara, I think Tara does doing a great job.
I
There's
think
a lot, there's just a lot to put together. So I'm sure
But
there's
you're not
days,
even seeing it all.
yeah, I'm sure there's days when you're chasing chance all over just to try and get it all together, but yeah.
first to take it apart and then to put it together. Yeah.
Also,
Commissioner Christopherson?
Yeah, I think Tara's done. It's been she's earned her pay the last couple of years. So, and she's doing a good job on putting it together, keeping it flowing forward. My only question that isn't, it's kind of related, but this year we were gonna implement that phone service.
Oh, yeah.
Has that been implemented yet?
It hasn't been implemented. The contract was on your consent agenda last month at the joint powers board meeting. So I know, so the contract is signed now. I know Deanne told me the timeline and it's escaped me.
Okay, and the reason I asked that is I don't know if this will. It would be nice if that was implemented and we were able to run it to see how it goes, because that may play into how many FTEs we feel like we need. I don't know.
I think it will take several years of refining it before it would
Really.
impact our need for FTEs, because it might take away some of the work for answering phones and some of those small questions, but then we're gonna have all the quality assurance work around it, reviewing the transcripts, making sure it's giving accurate information, making sure that our website is up to date, because it's gonna pull information from our website and other resources. So I think it's gonna take several years to get it refined before we would get to the point where we felt like it would actually reduce staffing.
You are training the model,
Right.
and that takes time.
Okay.
And then we look at all the possible transitions of state technology that we hope come. And that will be another big heavy lift too, but eventually give us some more efficiencies and hopefully more job satisfaction.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Any other questions for Tara? Thanks so much for coming and making
Yeah.
sure we know how it's going, and you know that Waseca County is committed to making Inquiry continue to be a success and to partner with you. Thank you for your leadership.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Brian, let's talk about parks.
All right, there, Commissioner. I'm here to talk about the 5-year parks plan for Waseca County Parks. Did a little bit of research and I do not believe we've had a parks plan in place. I did attempt to put together a parks plan and got as basically as far as I could, and with Beth and Michael's help, came up with which I feel is an excellent presentation. They did a good job. I appreciate that. Thank you. So what I'd like to do is kind of discuss the implementation of a parks plan into Waseca County. So, and you know, I'm not much of a speaker, but I kind of typed, some stuff up here that I was actually gonna say when I was presenting into the board. But it'll give you an overall idea of what this entails for when I do bring it to the board. So, for patience, thank you. So basically, thank you for the opportunity to present the proposed 5-year parks master plan. This plan provides a structured, physically responsible roadmap to maintain and improve our county park system over the next 5 years. It is core. This plan is about protecting the investments we've already made. Our parks include aging playgrounds, trails, pavement, lighting, and facilities that require planned reinvestment. Without a long-term strategy, we risk reactive repairs, higher emergency costs, and missed funding opportunities. This plan moves us from reactive maintenance to proactive assessment management. So first, the framework focuses on 4 priorities. The first is asset preservation. We establish predictable replacement cycles for the playground equipment, lighting, and park facilities. Preventive maintenance costs significantly less than full replacement. Second would be accessibility and improvements. This plan prioritizes ADA compliant pathways, accessible playground components, and improved routes to key amenities to ensure our parks are usable by all residents. Third is safety and risk reduction. Upgrading lighting to LED, improving trail surfaces, and maintaining compliant playground surfacing reduces liability exposure and enhances public safety. Fourth, leveraging outside funding. That's the main thing, really. So a board approved master plan positions us competitively for grants through the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and other funding sources that are out there. Having an adopted plan strengthens our ability to secure 50-50 matching funds and reduces the burden on local taxpayers. Financially, this is a phased 5-year capital approach designed to create predictability. It spreads investment over time, identifies priority projects, and builds flexibility if funding levels change. Most importantly, it helps avoid costly deferred maintenance and emergency replacements. By year 5, we will have reduced deferred maintenance, improved ADA accessibility, increased energy efficiency, and strengthened the long-term sustainability of our park system. So, commissioners, this plan provides structure, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. I respectively will request approval of the 5-year parks plan framework so we can move forward with implementation and related grant opportunities in a near future board session. Any questions? And we do have a plan here, so kind of, I don't know what, we can go through park by park on the plan and the overall. The first picture basically outlines our parks that are in our system right now. Some of them are accessible, some are not accessible to the public, I should say. So the 5-year planning goals implemented in 2026 and plans for basically individual parks. Focus will be on redeveloped parks rather than new large parks. Increase access to parks by foot mobility devices by bicycle and public transit. Develop and implement a countywide solar energy plan. Maybe, I put that in there. Expand and extend the southern and northern trail network, which, we're currently in the works working on now. Freeborn and hopefully moving up into the Waterville area. Manage the diversity and quantity of our natural resources to support key wildlife habitats. Continue to measure park system metrics and compare benchmarks to similar size systems, basically the same size as our parks now. Park programming and facilities will adopt to remain relevant to a diverse population. Continue to evaluate the disc golf system. Prioritize multi-model transportation and support active living, including bicycling and walking. So basically, the first one we have out here is Courthouse Park. It is considered
Brian?
our,
I'm sorry, you're on a roll, but I have one question. Have you engaged at all with public health on this?
no. Well, I mean, we do work together, so I mean, there's things that we have to communicate on
Yes.
for, I mean, even the water resources, anything we had, like if we had the cabin, I have to find out how many people.
I would urge you to make sure that you send this off to Sarah Berry too, because a lot of these focuses go very well with work and ship, which is part of our public health. And there's funding available. There could be funding available through public health for some of these wellness kinds of things. I know that part of your goal, and I applaud it, is to look for those outside sources of funding. And she would know about some outside sources that really fall in this spot. And so I would encourage you to think of her not just as a regulatory, not public health, just as a regulatory thing, doing the cabins and all that, but there's some real partnership on fitness and wellness and accessibility that she would know things about that you don't.
We did utilize the SHIP grant last year and we got a lot of benches and picnic tables, a new swing.
Awesome.
So we have implemented some and used some of that SHIP grant.
The watering stations the year before that.
Good.
Correct.
Hydration station.
Yeah, I want you to continue to be engaged there, because that's a place where, thank you.
Yep, and that was all kind of in the grant, scheme of everything, so because that is basically another grant availability. And there is a lot of money out there for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So Courthouse Park is considered the historical gem of our park system. Courthouse Park spans 172.61 acres of scenic landscape. The park offers a wide range of amenities for public use, including a modern playground, a spacious pavilion, and restrooms equipped with showers. Visitors can enjoy overnight stays at both primitive and modern campsites. Outdoor enthusiasts have the access to dedicated trails for hiking, horseback riding, cross-country skiing, 18-hole disc golf, and the Waseca River for fishing and swimming. The park's diverse habitats also provide excellent opportunities for bird watching and observing local wildlife and their natural environment. Courthouse Park's master plan for a possible, there are some of the plans that we have been discussing for a possible interpretive center located by the entrance where we had taken down the caretaker's house. Estimated cost on that could reach, up to 500,000. The interpretive center basically would be for weddings, school functions, you name it. Could go in there and use that facility. New playground for safer play. So this is pertains to one of the grants that I'm applying for now currently. Which I plan on bringing to the board back to the board, excuse me. Playground, which was roughly $281,786.82. Concrete border that would go around it, 6,600. LED lighting, ADA pathway, and that would be for the new grant obligated, or if we were to get it, that would be a 50-50 cost. So, if we were to keep the existing playground equipment and add to it, which would be another option, we could buy individual pieces and add it to the existing equipment that's there right now. The estimated cost was $40,000 to $60,000 for the equipment. I would still recommend the pour-in-place safety material. That would be estimated at $110,000. You still need a concrete border and the LED lighting be going around. And then widening the road, entering the park. I did work with the highway department on this a little bit. And estimated road work would cost around $125,000. We would have to probably purchase about 20 foot of property on the east side of the driveway. And I got the estimated cost there per acre, depending on. I thought it was kind of high, but it's the number he gave me.
I don't think he's wrong.
But so that information is there for you. And then I have on there expand and extend the southern and northern trail network. Basically, the cost is still to be determined on that. Basically, be coming off the line of the trail that would be put in, cutting over the courthouse park for access to the park. The connection of fiber internet, the costs have been implemented already in that. It's been laid out there. We just need to get it connected to the building when that time comes, or where we want to connect it to. At this point, I believe we're going to put it in the garage. Additional a pickleball court, I kept that on there for an option, due to the fact is if we do keep the existing playground equipment and not go with the new equipment, we have a spot for that. We could do one or two in the place of where I was planning on putting the new playground equipment. Improve and evaluate disc golf system. That is a yearly levy implemented budget cost that we put in every year, which I have on pretty much all the parks. And improve all trails, which is also another levy implemented budget. Questions on Courthouse Park? Okay. Flowers Park consists of 83.49 acres. The public uses in this park consist of bathroom, pavilions, playground, volleyball court, horseshoes, walking trails, wildlife, and access to waterfowl hunting and fishing. So the Flowers Park plan is to plant 6 to 8 foot trees along the edge of the driveway that goes into the park. And I have all the way out to the boat landing, but it would necessarily stop where the wood line is, just before you get back there. We have issues with people driving onto the grass and tearing it up and stuff when it gets wet. New pavilion with electricity and lighting. Here the pavilion is getting run down. It's been up for many, many years. We've been maintaining it for many years. And this pavilion gets used a lot as well. So it'd be nice to have some electric in there and some lighting. Add bean bags. So we have added some concrete beanbags that are maintenance free, the game at Courthouse Park. We have since purchased a couple. And we're gonna incorporate them out at Courthouse Park, but we're trying, really can't come up with a place for them at this time. So I'm thinking we're just gonna incorporate one set in the Blowers Park. And when we get to Eustis, one set in the Eustis Park. When, that time comes, which will possibly happen this year. So the purchase, and it just basically I have on there that it's purchased and just needs to be installed. Then you have the slab cost for the concrete. Upgrade the playground, and add ADA pathway. So this could be moving the old playground equipment from Courthouse Park to Blowers Park. So we still incorporate somewhat of the ADA accessibility, not as much as the new playground equipment. We had added pieces to it, which we could do to this park as well. We could add pieces to it. So anyway, if we were to move it, it estimated cost 20 grand, poured in place safety material, estimated, and the ADA pathway, which, we had received a grant out there, back in these years ago. And I keep getting a letter on an ADA pathway to the playground. But haven't incorporated that yet due to the improvements I'd like to make out there. Anything on Blowers?
Right, what is your 20,000 in the budget for this year at that park?
Uh,
So current 2026 budget allocation is 20,285. What is that for?
That was basically, some improvements on the pavilion. Which would include a metal roofing on it, as it needed new roof on it. We had, I believe we were going to, well, it's trail maintenance as well, so, I mean, if we still have people that mow the park, I don't have it all listed.
Oh, I thought it was something, one of these projects here, that's what I'm getting at.
So it's nothing to do with what's on the screen right now. It's a placeholder for where the next steps of this conversation will go. Okay. In terms of the timing and the approach. Is it going to be factored in or blended in a budgetary model going forward? So it's helpful to answer that question, like, what are we spending now on those parks? And some of these costs are allocated or averaged or weighted out across the park system as a whole. We only have one parks caretaker, but he takes care of several different parks and does things in different parks. Contracts and things are spread out amongst those parks as well too.
I saw that.
We can
I thought it was
size,
something, that's fine. No, we're good. We're good.
Any questions on Blowers? Great Eustis Park. The park consists of 50 acres. Public uses in the park consists of bathroom, pavilion, playground, hiking trail, and of course, wildlife. The plan for this park would be to upgrade the playground with safety surfacing and the ADA pathway. Again, the pour in place safety surfacing and the ADA pathway. New pavilion with electricity and lighting. Right now, Teddy went out and looked, and the power that is out there now is on the main road. So it would have to be ran all the way up to the barn. So up the whole driveway and into the barn, which would have to be done by Excel wiring and then another box put in. That's why the cost is up on that. And here I had to add the bean bags. I decided to put one out there so that the estimated cost on a new set to be taken off this Then it's just have the concrete slab, for them. Have the family fire pit with ADA pathway, similar to the one we have at courthouse. That would, probably, we were looking at where the old grilling station was, where the brick are falling off. And I think that we believe that would be a good spot for it. Again, blacktop road to the park, possibly determined on that. And the reason why I say that is, I'm not sure if that would be a public works deal or if you would actually want it in my parks area, as for budgeting wise. Maintain, improve the wildlife walking trails. Again, this has that yearly, budget cost. $5,000, and again, the budget allocation that goes with that. Any questions on Ray Eustace Park? Okay. Moose Lake Park, consists of 50.4 acres, mostly wooded. Public uses for the park consist of boat launch for waterfowl hunting, hunting in general, and hiking trail and wildlife. We're currently in a 5-year forestry enhancement program with Great River Greening Cooperative Agreement. And this is basically just a cost of in-kind hours that I've been taking care of with meeting them out there and making sure things are on track. The boat landing out there for hunters gets used a lot. But looking at some upgrades on that. And again, blacktop the entrance and turn around in the park. This would be after the railroad tracks going into the park, not from the main road, all back, which is the minimum maintenance road right now. Yearly implemented budget cost, and again, the budget allocation for that park. Anything on Moose Lake?
Does the DNR have a boat landing across that on the east side?
They do, that's never maintained. Hard to see sometimes, because it's under the grass.
No, I get that, been in, so I wonder.
But yes, they do, it is.
My other thing is blacktopping the entrance. I don't know if I would agree with. My concern would be that road, that park is not open yearly or all year long, because that's a minimum maintenance road that doesn't get plowed during the winter. So I don't know if that would be a profitable thing to do, blacktopping that.
Yes, go ahead.
Back up, as I'm sitting here thinking about, on Eustis Park, the road going in to the park. Is it Public Works that mows that? Or the shoulders of that road, or do you guys maintain the road shoulders going into the park?
All we maintain is where Sickles ends
Okay,
into the park.
so you do mow those shoulders.
Of the park access itself, yes. But from the main road up to Sickles, we do not maintain that.
That, I understand why you do it that way, but that's, in my estimation, that's still the entrance to the park. And sometimes it can get pretty ratty with giant ragweed right alongside the road and look pretty ratty. And I don't know if it's much more of a trouble just to keep that down to all the way in.
Right now, that park is contracted out for the mowing as well, so it would just be, that might be something that we would have to either add to it or just maybe STS can do that on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, or we just do it ourselves on a bi-weekly basis.
Or Public Works, if they're spraying or
Right.
mowing, we could get them to go up, get that. I know it's not a county road and it's not really our road, but it is the entrance to the park and it looked pretty nice.
Mark Sickle does mow down to the edge of his woods. And then that, it does get a little dicey down there because the river has washed a lot of that away, between Sickles and the main road.
Yeah, that curve there, yeah, water will come out of the
Yeah,
ditch and,
So that ditch is pretty steep too.
okay.
Well, so.
Yeah, so it may be more spraying than mowing to maintain it.
yeah.
Or a drop down. Off tractors.
Yeah. Right, so I don't know, I just, if we could work a little more with Public Works and try to keep that a little nicer. I do get calls once in a while.
I would imagine it's like they do at Courthouse Park when they spray down the driveway for invasive weeds. They could do the same thing there. I mean, they're
Right,
stones throw away from that road.
right, okay,
So
Is that a township road?
it is a township road going up to Sickles House, yeah.
We should just let the township, that was a courtesy then. If we're gonna think about spraying in their road ditch.
do you think it's even township?
It is township,
It
and,
is township. Okay,
Up to.
just a low
the
maintenance
parking.
township as well.
yeah. We got it.
Yeah, and I'll be at Freedom here next week, so township,
Should it be,
that'll be a topic.
it'd probably make the point better to be asked. Rather than just,
You wanna relay some information back after your meeting.
Okay, I'll do that.
I got one question on Goose Lake Park too, Brian. When it comes to the trail, and it's a snowmobile trail generally goes back there too, do we get funding from the snowmobile club to help maintain that?
No.
Could we ask them? They have gambling.
We can ask.
help.
If the tree's down or something like that, they usually call us and.
But generally during the summer, the county kind of keeps that open and everything, right?
Yep.
It might be worth just, a little something to cover. Cause they'll utilize, I mean, granted, there hasn't been much snow lately, but. Just a thought.
And then going back to the work that we're doing out there, once this is done, the intentions are, there's gonna, to get the public out there, they're gonna have, the bird watchers, the flower people, the berry eaters, picking berries. So a lot of that stuff is gonna be incorporated out there. And the plan is to have an actual open house per se, for the public to come out and attend and do that walk about around that section. And it is actually looking pretty decent out there now where all that, we had that big patch of buckthorn. I mean, that's cleaned up, of course, after the fact in 5 years we'll be committed to a maintenance plan. But they're doing really good work out there.
Have they harvested any of the trees out of there yet, or they just?
They did, so they took a bunch of trees down and then, we were able to keep the cost down with them just taking that wood for themselves. And then the chipper guy came in and chipped everything up. And we had them transport all the wood chips to Courthouse Park, which saved the cost from transferring it somewhere else, to use on our trails out there. Or wherever we need them in any of our parks, really. Right now, they're still, it all pertains to the weather and the ground being hard versus getting in there and doing work on better. I think they may have been out there a couple times last week still, but now they're kind of settling down a little bit. Why it's a long process.
it's too mushy.
Mushy. We don't want anything tore up.
No, for sure.
Any other questions?
Let's get on to toners.
All right, Owner's Lake. So this park consists of 22.38 acres. Public uses for this area is a small picnic area, hunting and wildlife. So it's hard for hunting unless you can get onto the lake itself off of one of the main roads. Otherwise, you gotta walk through a lot of stuff to get back there, but some people do that. So basically, to maintain the status on the picnic area, and then, of course, this is just a yearly implemented budget. Questions on owners?
Go back to that picture. Do we have access off that township road into there? Is that, I see that by the park line on the north end there.
So on the north end is where it's an actual driveway that goes up to the house.
Yep.
So we have an easement that, and this was actually grant funded back in the day. For very, very little money.
The easement or the park?
Oh. Which gets, public up to a certain point, that's where the little picnic area is with a garbage can.
Yep.
We looked into selling, but we can't. We could, I'm sorry.
I don't think we should sell it. I just, the maintenance on it, I think it should be just, public beware as you walk in there.
Yeah, well, so we can only maintain that park area. We cannot maintain a trail going back into the woods.
No,
That's basically private, so. Like I say, to get to it, you would have to come off the road to the south, get onto the water and go up there and hunt. For public access.
said the trail couldn't be done. I'm just, because it's private.
Well, so there's, I don't know how to explain it. Where you end up where the picnic area is,
Yeah,
there's kind of like a walk.
yep, I know, I've been through there. I know.
Right.
But I'm just saying, where the private part is that we can't do a trail. If it's powder.
We can't do a trail into the park itself because there is no access to the property or the park itself from that road, from that picnic area.
What we're maintaining is in that easement area, so we actually have to go beyond that to get to the physical part, which is overtaken by cattails and slough now.
Yeah.
So they're really, and where those woods are on the west side of her house, that's just a steep grade.
So let me ask you this, throw this question, is it worth even maintaining as a public? If we can't get into the park, maybe just let it overgrow and leave it as is.
I believe we have to keep it maintained due to the grant that we acquired. We have to maintain the grant aspect of it and keep the signage up there for the grant that we took in.
You know, when the grant was, Brian?
When it was,
Yeah. When we received it.
60 something.
it was quite a while, a long time ago, and it was minimal, I mean,
So is it a conservation easement, the DNR or something like that,
DNR.
like a 50-year?
no, this is it wasn't there was no timeline on it. This was like a forever deal. And like I say, when I got a hold of them to ask if it was possible to sell, they said no, but yes, you could, as long as the county bought another property in a similar size.
Which be nice to see that grant.
Okay. Well, then it'd be,
We can move on. I think let's take a look at that grant.
yeah, I guess, I'll, send an email. Any other questions on the owner? All right, Middlestead. So this park consists of 40.75 acres. Public use for this large and native grassy area is for hunting, wildlife, and bird watching. My plan on this was just to keep maintaining as is, keep the trail open, so the public can get back there. Go right alongside the tree line. keep that mode for access and going into the park. So,
Somebody keeps shooting that sign up there.
I was gonna say, thanks for replacing the sign when it needs it.
Aquaman Park. So this park consists of 11.44 acres, nestled along the edge of Lake Elysian. Public uses for this area consist of pavilion, bathroom, hiking, boat launch, the Lake Elysian, fishing, and volleyball hunting. So the plan on this is to add electricity and lighting to the pavilion. Again, the electricity is up by, the main road, so it would have to be ran down to it. Add another family fire pit and ADA pathway. We have a fire pit out here now, it's a smaller one, just on the other side of the drainage. And of course, the ADA pathway to it, which every time you put something in, if it's a drain, you should have the ADA accessibility in all this work. But I still recommend the path anyway, even if it wasn't a grant. And then maintain the status on the public access boat landing and the trail maintenance that we have. We have a small trail system that's right there again. It's a snowmobile trail / little tiny walking trail. Any questions on Aquaman? Okay. Moon Lake Island Park. This park consists of 0.73 acres. This island can only be reached by non-motorized water vessel. Public uses for the area is bird watching and fishing. So basically, the plan here is to maintain the status and control of buckthorn and cormorants on the island. That's basically a cost of staff time. We were awarded another permit for this year. We have been going out and maintaining this island this winter. We're able to remove a bunch of buckthorn off there and knock some of the cormorant nests down. So getting a little ahead of the schedule, of course, leaving the herring nests alone. But trying to get it maintained, and when we get to a certain point, then plant new vegetation once the control has been to where we could possibly get some new vegetation growing in there. Questions on like?
Have you talked with Chris about putting a floating walkway out there?
Yeah. And it's basically, in the talk would be getting a hold of the DNR and seeing if they would even agree to it. He had mentioned at one time they believe they had a road going out to it or a pathway going to it.
Yeah.
And then that was taken away, and that's where it ended, where the walkway is now. So basically, he's willing to chat about it and with the DNR and stuff like that.
So you put it on Chris to take care of, so what I'm at, I guess.
Correct.
Okay.
Because it would have to be, he's land and water resources, and he would have to act with DNR, kind of like we're doing planning the flowers.
Trying to think of why would the DNR, why would we have to have their okay?
That, I really don't understand that part. That was,
That's a question.
Public waterway.
Huh?
It's a public waterway. It'd be blocking that to go, if you had a boat, you know, like, so it'd be a public.
It's gotta be in order,
Right, it's a public waterway, so you have to kind of get their permission to put it out.
I remember him saying you'd have to have something that you'd be able to get underneath.
Yes, well, not necessarily, you can do a float, it's just a matter of, float blocks. Lure Lake used to have one where you're going from land to their island, it was just a float dock.
Okay.
That's tied to the mainland.
Okay, so it isn't unprecedented or they
No.
have that.
I've seen them in other places.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
I did find a fire pit out there. People have been out there using it. And then there was a little geocache site where people had been writing their names on the list on what they did and when they visited
Okay.
while we were out there this winter. So
Back,
Cool.
I did think about putting a couple of primitive sites out there for camping. but we are not close enough to a bathroom. And by public health regulations, we cannot put a privy out there. That kind of, like, about 100 feet short of bathroom, there's like bathroom,
Oh,
or excuse me, moonlight bathroom, moonlight park. That's,
I mean, what you,
there'd like be a long way to go, wouldn't it? Right. Question from Moonlight. All right, Deckler Park. This park consists of 23.83 acres with very limited access, which would be just county only, unless they came in from private property to someone else. An abundance of wildlife can be seen at the park. This is maintained status as is, and right now, we really don't have any allocated costs for this area.
where is this?
This would be basically where the landfill is.
Okay.
They go
I
south
wondered if it was
and east.
by the landfill.
So,
Any questions on Deckler? Thanks.
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
Brian,
Yeah.
thanks for presenting this. Even though you say you don't speak well, it's like you're talking to the Shark Tank up here, you know? You just haven't asked for money in total. I support this, you know, with my 20%. We're not voting on anything today. I think it's a good plan. Parks are needed in our county. People like to go hiking. And like Commissioner Walter said, our chair said, you know, it's part of the public health plan to get people out and about. One question would be, do we have an insect control plan for this? You know, I mean, our parks are great for about 4 months out of the year in the winter.
So,
And other than that, what do we have in place?
so what we have in place right now, 3 years ago, I had signed a contract with, mosquito, basically mosquito patrol that does the city of Waseca. And they would go out to Courthouse Park. I think it roughly goes 12 or 13 times a year. The same night they do the city of Waseca, and they basically go down the road with the mosquito control. And it has helped, that we noticed. But last year we had budgeted for a mosquito fogger that we put on the back of the 6-wheeler. And we now have that capability of doing the bug mosquito control on our own in all the parks.
Okay.
So the cost allocated with that is basically the chemical that, you put into the machine.
It was a night day difference because we could get down trails. I mean, it's not flawless by any means, but it was definitely more usable out there. That at Courthouse really started hitting it hard, so.
Yeah, I understand some of these that are landlocked, you're not gonna do that, we hire a drone.
Right.
And then people aren't gonna go out there and enjoy it.
Yeah, our Courthouse Park, Eustis Park, Wellers Park, that we get a lot of public at, can be maintained now on a schedule, for mosquito control. Like I say, I still have this year with our contract, so that'll help, cut down a little bit of time on staff time doing this, but we can maintain it. If we notice they're coming back, we can go out there and actually take care of the situation.
Great, thank you.
Campers have, chatted and left messages how much better it was.
Anything else for Brian here? Huh? Here we go.
All right, so an overall budget, Ballers Park, Courthouse Park, Eustis Park, Kempler Park, Goose Lake Park, Moon Lake Island, Anthony Park, Middlestead Park, Hockman Park, and Torrens Lake Park. $129,800. 2026 total budget for all the parks. And then, it's a breakdown as to money allocated in the overall parks plan from year to year, from 2027 to 2031. It's a breakdown of cost, and I'm not gonna list everything, it's just 2027 is 317,000. 2028, 851, 2029, 137, 2030, 146, 2031, 104. And I understand, you know, some of this stuff, I mean, even with a park plan can be like, board's discretion, as don't, we can't do this year, can we move to the next year? This is just what I have broke down.
And these are costs without any grant funding involved.
Right.
And you can't apply for grants if you don't have some idea what you want to spend. So thanks for the work on this. It really sets us up well to go looking for that.
And this really helps if, you know, if you have the support from the board on parks budget like this, it really helps taking the time and putting the time into that grant funding, versus doing it all and then coming to the board and they get shot down per se. But anyhow, any questions overall on the whole?
One thing I'd like on courthouse park is to have that road widened up as a priority. Just on my perspective.
Yeah, so if we can transition into more of a budgetary narrative, that would be helpful. You know, there isn't an intense sense of urgency to approve the parks plan as a whole. There are elements of it, particularly the grant that we talked about a month ago, that has more of a sense of urgency if the board has a desire to move forward in that capacity. And if not, okay, I mean, it doesn't take away from the overall plan of the park in terms of your options. You can start over in terms of playground equipment, or you can enhance what's currently there. And there are different ways of what that enhancement can look like. Additional equipment, solely an ADA accessible surface material, combination of both, moving the entirety of the system over across the parking lot effectively in adjacency to the new pavilion. All of those options are still relevant within the parks plan, whether or not that grant is acted on this month. So Brian did submit that grant to the DNR for comments, as we stated we would do. The final due date, of course, the end of this month, in terms of submission. So we'll hopefully, I don't imagine you've heard anything back yet. That'd be surprising. But hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll get a little bit of feedback. And we may run into a wall there already where they're like, don't even bother submitting this. I don't expect that to be the case, but we don't know if we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, we've inquired with the DNR for feedback and soliciting comments there. So there's that piece, there's the 5-year plan piece, and then there's the budgetary piece. Why I wanted to include what are we currently paying in parks, because that ties into what we could currently be paying in parks in the future. If you take a plan like this, ideally you stick to the plan, right? So do things happen? Of course. Does something maybe slated in 2028 get pushed to 2029? Absolutely, that happens. But having all of those wants, needs, and desires captured on one document is mostly what is essential. And then shifting things between the columns of years can happen, likely will happen, should happen, depending upon the state of the world and the budget of the county. The largest ticket item obviously on there is that placeholder for an interpretive center. That has been a conversation bandied about a couple of different times. We have just very preliminary schematic designs of what that could look like, but it could look like nothing, right? So it's just, that's some of the insight that is needed. And approval of the plan, I guess I would clarify, does not necessarily mean that the interpretive center will be built in that 2028 time slot. It does not mean that it will be built at all. What the board would be asked to agree upon is conceptually the design of this 5-year plan. Are these the right targets that we're aiming at? And is this the right approach for the park system as a whole? And then it becomes an annual conversation blended into the budgetary process and approach. Hey, remember that 5-year plan? This is what the budget implication would be. Are we cool with this? Do we need to adjust? What are we looking at? Have feelings changed? Has the state of the park changed in some way, shape, or form to where this is no longer logical to approach? Hopefully that all makes sense. So in the not too distant future, yes, we would try to look for formal adoption of a 5-year parks plan. Based upon any feedback you may have now or in the future. Some of these items may or may not be on there, or the list may grow based upon what you tell us. So like Brian said, to our knowledge, this has never existed as it pertains to the parks plan. So if we're not operating by a plan, as Brian stated at the beginning, we're kind of reacting to the situations that happen and not proactively planning to what we want to see our system look like. Part of the concern heard last month was, well, we're talking a lot about Courthouse Park. What about the other ones? What are we doing over there? This does a good job of starting to address some of what that may look like. And at the end of the day, it's ultimately a very helpful tool to hand off to a constituent and say, yes, we have not forgotten Eustis Park. We know it exists. Here are some of the things we're going to do and pay attention to. And look, here's kind of where that's captured and what your reasonable expectations can be for a documented process that we should going forward. So with all of that thrown at you, what else do you have for us?
I have one more thought, particularly on Courthouse Park, and I really appreciate the work that went into this. It helps us to think of all the parks instead of at one at a time. It really helps us get a more holistic view, because this is part of the tourism, agritourism that we want to develop here in a purposeful way in Waseca County. You know, we have a beautiful county and we want people to come here to see it, besides just enjoying it ourselves. On Courthouse Park, I absolutely agree with Commissioner Milbrook that we need to be looking at that front access, and it's so skinny and it's so hard to get in there. But I know we have talked in the past about a possibility of another access to the park, and I think that needs to stay on our list to try to pursue. It is such a big park that if you can come in more than one direction, it really can help more people use the park without feeling like they're stepping on each other. So I didn't see that idea on there anywhere. I know that we don't have access right now. If there's a way to get it, let's think about it.
Chair, it's in the first box.
Yeah, so
Oh, there you go. I didn't see them. No, thank you.
And that is a conversation Chris Howard is navigating
Awesome.
this fall. So you're absolutely right. We don't want to forget about that possibility.
And I appreciate the interdepartmental work that goes into this, with highway, with public health, with land and water. Takes all of us to do a good job on this. Administration, absolutely.
So let me put it to you this way, I guess. If this is approach, well, let me rephrase. If staff take the approach of we come to you in a budgetary process that will kick off in just a couple of months, we'll be back there talking about 2027's plan. How should we integrate this into that conversation? Or should we? Do you want this to be a conversation point every year in that budgetary model, not necessarily, okay, we're gonna take and adopt and plug in, but we're going to stop, pause and converse and say, well, this is what we talked about ideally for 2027. Should we move forward? Should we punt on an item or two? Do we need to hone and focus prioritizations? So it can just be a seamless blend where you look at this document, you approve it, then thus expect those placeholders to be a budget. Or what I see like being more likely and logical for this group is we adopt this plan in the framework of the plan with the understanding and intention that this plan then comes back as part of that process and we revisit in that first quarter, beginning of second quarter each year to say, here's our parks plan. Remember this item, this item, this item, here are the estimated costs. What do we want to try to bite off with the apple this year?
I have really appreciated, this reminds me very much of when we, took a bigger focus on capital improvements and overall maintenance repair across all our facilities, and how helpful that is to have it all out there and look at it and look at all the big pieces. This reminds me very much of that, like it's all laid out together. I think for me, it's part of this board, which is very, very helpful to have that, as I said earlier, holistic view. And then, yeah, let's have a plan and let's be able to adapt the plan year by year as we go. But knowing that we've got some goals out there, as opposed to, I guess we'll just see. I guess we'll just see. We would like to do this. How are we gonna make this happen? So I appreciate the work that's gone into this by our maintenance department and by all our staff. And thanks for the great work.
Sure.
Yes.
So, Michael, would you put this in like capital improvement for parks and a line item for building and grounds? Is that what you're saying? I mean, so when we started on the budget, on here we are.
It would probably depend on the project, right?
But it's all gonna be,
There's already a capital improvement line under the parks budget.
Okay.
So yes, this would be a seamless tie to that line item. If that's how we wanted to see it, if that's what the board was ultimately comfortable in that approach. So as I would envision it, we have a parks budget every single year, right? And that's what I wanted to be clear throughout this. We already have money being denoted to parks for the ongoing maintenance and upkeep elements. Anything over and above that, you're already seeing. It's just, oh, we should really do this. Or like Commissioner Mulcher said, it's like, surprise, this is happening. So how do you want to pay for it? This would be more so, here are all of the items that are approved from a capital infrastructure plan for parks this year. Here's the dollar amount. That dollar amount gets plugged into that line and that expense. Everybody knows what it is. The notes are in there, you know, with all of these things listed, referring to them at their respective bucks. So yes, it's a one single line item that's visible and identifiable. And we have a tie to that isn't spread out across different accounts. It's just our capital improvement ties to this plan. Here's the dollar amount. And then whatever happens for that year, this little matrix gets adjusted. Maybe something moved up, maybe something got pushed back. But at the end of the day, your CIP that you would then approve annually, I would suggest, or maybe it's $150,000 in 2027. You see that same 150,000 in that expense line of the parks budget, and maybe that turns 2028 into $1 million, or you can push 500,000 into 2030, etc. So it's a living, breathing document. It should adjust every single year, and that narrative will certainly adjust every single year, leading to what is adopted in that price point.
I just think this position, as we are finding out from practice, that sometimes getting that outside money, that grant money or even congressionally directed spending.
Yeah.
If we've got a big project, it happens because you work at it for 2 or 3 or 4 years or more sometimes. And we can't put it out there, especially for big stuff, if we don't have the long-term planning vision. So this helps give us that vision to do that.
And that interpretive center is one that is perfect for either a community project funding or a congressionally directed spending ask. You can blend in public health, you can blend in social services, you can blend in all sorts of stuff. And under the education and or social services umbrella as well, to chase dollars for a project like that. So that's one that's kind of easy to push a little bit because there are some avenues you can go down and people you can talk to and ask for some of that funding.
Economic development, all this stuff. Awesome. Other questions or comments?
Thanks, Brian, for putting this in. You did good work. I think, there's a few things in here I would adjust, at least on the first 3 parks, to change it down the years, but I think overall having this laid out over the head, I think it's a good one. Thank you.
Great. And the only thing else I would ask is if there are those, you have specific things that resonate or stick out to you, please send those to staff so we can adjust and make sure those are captured and reflected. And then the only other ask I have for staff is right now that grant decision has been tabled to March 17th. What else would you like to see, if anything, prior to that item coming back up on the 17th? Or as the course of this conversation or discussion solidified in your mind one way or the other? Great, it's a great opportunity, but not the right time. What should staff be considering over the next 2 weeks that it makes your lives easier?
I like the opportunity, but I don't know if it's the time right now. I think.
I agree with Commissioner Milbrook, but, yeah, and, you know, a lot of things on this thing too, like a lot of this is gonna be grant, dependent. You know, or in my estimation, you know, this is front end loaded, which I like the layout, and so we know what we want to have done in the parks over the next 5 years, but we're also building a building, so it's all this where priorities are, so then where we can spend our money, so. Thanks.
All right, sir.
I do really appreciate the framework of the 5-year plan. For myself, I need a roadmap of where we're gonna go and what we're gonna spend on. The only thing that really bothers me is the courthouse park as far as the dollar amount with the playground. I would like to see that toned down just a little bit, maybe just add to what we have existing out there. Just because we got a lot of other projects going on. I really like the possibility of the interpretive center. I've had several constituents talk about that, and also widening the road. So, I mean, I would put some priorities out there.
I'm kind of hearing the unanimous consent that we want the road widened as soon as possible.
So that's, yeah, I really appreciate what you've done, Brian. It's really good. And staff.
So yeah, Madam Chair.
All right.
I got one thing just to add on
One
this.
last question.
One more.
One more.
One more. And you know, if staff can work together with, Land and Water and, Jim over there discussing both that road going in at, Eustis Park and then the Loon Lake Heights. And just see if you can come up with some resolutions on some of that. That's all I got.
That's okay. we need to have a couple minutes before we start our next meeting, so we are adjourned from our work session and we will come back into session in 5. started here. I would call this meeting to order. And we will begin by silencing our cell phones and standing for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we are going to begin with a staff introduction. We have new staff here. Robert,
Would you like us to go up there?
yeah, awesome.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Brad Howe. He's our new appraiser in the assessor's office. And, I'm gonna let him just talk a little bit about himself for a minute or two. So,
Perfect.
Well, my wife thinks I like to talk about myself too much, but, I've been a fee appraiser for about 20 years. So hopefully that translates into this job a little bit. It'll be a little different from people telling me how great their place is to people telling me how poor their place is. So that will be a little bit of a transition. I'll have to figure out my wording for my questions to get the right answers out of folks. But I'm happy to be here. Everybody's been great so far. It's been really nice getting to know all of you.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for coming, and we're looking forward to you being part of the Waseca County team.
Great, thank you.
I'll just add to, Fred is taking over Cheryl's, jurisdictions. He did grow up on, he has 20 years of experience in ag, land and grew up on a farm too. So, usually we have to kind of shift, and two people have to learn new spots where a previous appraiser would have to learn a different place. But this will work good because he can jump in and we only need to learn one new thing. So good.
Awesome. Yeah, when you already speak farmer speak, that helps a ton. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
and
you.
welcome. All right, next we would open this up for public comment. Is there anybody with for public comment today? Anybody online? Something going on over there. All right, we will move on from public comment to look at our agenda. Any adjustments to the agenda? Commissioner Hargit,
No, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Christopherson,
No, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Krause,
No, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Mildred,
No, Madam Chair.
administration,
No, Madam.
our county attorney.
No.
All right, then I would be looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second by Crosby.
Moved by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Krause. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Approval of board minutes. We've got two sets of board minutes in our packet. The first from the Drainage Authority meeting that we had February 10th, where we took on 4 ditches all at the same time. That was me. And then Waseca County Commissioner meeting from February 17th. I would look for a motion to approve or any corrections that need to be made.
So moved as a slate, right?
Thank you.
Second and number.
Moved by Commissioner Hargis, second by Commissioner Mildreth. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Then the consent agenda, approval of bills, the extension of the Centerpoint Energy Minigasco Incorporated Conditional Use Permit Amendment. For 2 years, they're building onto their hub. And transfer of funds, local option sales tax are on our consent agenda. I would look for a motion and a second, and if there's any discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Second, Hargit.
Motion by Commissioner Milbroth, second by Commissioner Hargit. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Alrighty. Then on to action items. Jim, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of three contracts for your consideration today. First one was a bundled projects on CASA 6 and CASA 15 for pavement rehabilitation. So some milling, stabilized full depth reclamation between the surface and shouldering pavement markings and the like. On that 1 mile of CASA 6, that runs north-south, kind of from the Mercer Golf Course north, and then County Road 15, which runs from Trunk Highway 13 through Waseca and westerly to West Walden Road. Some very similar projects for both road segments, which is why we bundled them. Plus, they're kind of geographically located together, which made them appealing, I think, for bidding. Both are CASA, so we're targeting regular CASA construction dollars to fund those projects. Prepared our plans and advertised in accordance with law. We opened bids on the 19th of February. We had 2 bids, and Newland Brothers submitted the low responsible bid at, let's see here, $1,725,394.70, about 17% below the engineer's estimate. And then I have in there, CASA 6 was bid at just over 539,000, and CASA 15 was 1.16 million, which made up the 1.7 of the bid. And with that, staff would recommend approval of contract 812602.
All right. I would look for a motion in a second and then discussion.
I would make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Milbreath, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Questions or discussion?
What was the plan with the curb and gutter going through Waseca?
Plan is to leave it out. So just a mill and overlay it through Waseca to kind of, there's a lot going on there drainage wise and a lot of different pieces and parts to avoid really getting into a massive reconstruct. A mill and overlay was targeted. Kind of the discussion, if you recall, last August and road tour. That's what I was trying to went through there. Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
So,
Go ahead.
just for discussion, that 2.6 miles equates out to 653 approximately thousand per mile. The one out there was 500, so I suppose there's more expenses going through town, because I thought there was more aggregate under the other road.
15 has a little bit of aggregate under it. But 6 is a slightly shorter haul from Overly for Newland Brothers. Okay, could equate to some dollars.
And then it's just a wide open mile versus.
Yeah, there's lots of bends and corners and things like that. That could increase the cost. But otherwise, very similar projects, just overall.
So that'll be a detour then, right?
We've been able to maintain local traffic on the reclaimed surface. Yeah, it's basically a gravel surface until they start paving. And then both companies are really good about flagging and traffic control so that we can keep traffic through. I mean, people will start to avoid it once they see all the work. So it truly should be no very local traffic, but we've been able to get them through.
So then when these are done, they're a 10-ton design. So they won't be posted.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
That's a nice improvement.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, we have a motion and a second for the CASA 6, CASA 15 pavement rehabilitation. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Contract 812604.
Yeah, all even numbered contracts this week and all odd numbered on the 17th. This one's County Road 60, so west county line south of Smith's Mill toward easterly to the US 14 interchange. This one, we've got slated a mill and overlay project on this road, which would still meet the 10-ton design. This one is a little bit muddier, I guess, as far as what's out there. There's 3 different pavement sections out there from the original construction to when curb was constructed as part of the new 14 project, and then there's all concrete underneath what's remnants of old 14 that County Road 60 lies on now. So to avoid, I guess, one comprehensive reconstruct, we looked at a mill overlay to extend the life of that road and keep it performing, for another 20+ years before we need to do anything there again. Same sort of deal, prepared our plans, advertised in accordance with law. We opened bids on the 24th of February. Again, 2 bids were received. This time, Crane Creek Asphalt out of Faribault was the low responsible bidder. The bid amount of $220,604.50. Again, right around that 18% under the engineer's estimate. And this one being a county road, it's not eligible for facade dollars, so we have our local option sales tax funds targeted for this one. So with that, staff recommend approval.
All right.
So move to approve by Crosby. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Hargit. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, well, let's get on to contract 812606 pavement markings.
Thank you. This one is our annual maintenance, call it restripe of existing paved roads and pavement markings on those roads. Targeted 82 miles of restripe for this contract year. It's a handful of contractors in the state left doing this work, so we directly solicited quotes from those contractors. And it's allowed by law. We're looking at a dollar amount less than the $175,000 required for competitive bidding. We solicited 4 contractors, 2 provided responsive quotes. Sir Lines a Lot LLC submitted the low responsible bid with a bid amount of $100,002.40. Again, about that 18% under engineer's estimate. I believe I attached a map as well as the bid summary for this contract, and staff recommends award. This would be maintenance sort of for the budget, and that CASA dollars, CASA maintenance dollars spent where appropriate.
So move to approve by Crosby.
Second by Milbrad.
Motion by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Milbrad. Any questions, comments? I have one.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Old eyes, driving at night. Man, I love freshly striped roads. I really, really appreciate them. It makes me a safer driver at night, and I know if it makes me a safer driver, it makes other people safer drivers. So, sir.
Jim, is that the wide stripe?
This one will, since it's restripe, will match what's out there. So some of the roads will have 4-inch edge lines still, and then some of the recent seal coats or recent pavement projects that have the 6-inch edge line will get striped with that. So we're slowly building our 6-inch edge line through either seal coat projects or construction projects, and then as we restripe them, we're matching them.
Okay.
And currently you are on about a 3-year rotation or?
2.5, I think it probably averages out. I mean, some of our higher volume roads, we're seeing that wear and tear a bit more, or it depends on the snow season as well, how much rubbing we do on the pavement with the plows and how well that survives. But yeah, we're right in that 2.5 to 3 year on our text roads. But concrete's that we've been successful in the grant dollars to inlay those pavement markings into the pavement. Should last 7+ years because of the group and higher performing paint.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you so much.
Give them straight. Awesome. Thank you, Jim, as always, for moving us ahead. All right. Next, the judicial building design development estimated cost update.
Madam Chair, we'll turn it over to Carrie in just a second, but just to provide a little bit of clarification on the staff recommendation here. Ultimately, we are requesting approval of the design development and just granting authority to continue to move forward into contract documents. So no, that will inevitably result in moving into some phased bidding process. This action or request in and of itself is not requesting anything to do with bidding, simply approving cost estimates.
Carrie and Eric are here from A&P.
That is correct. So,
And welcome, and we're excited to hear from you.
thank you, Madam Chair. So we've been working very closely with Waseca Architects and their design team. They provided the the design development documents to us roughly 5 weeks ago. We put that internally and did our own cost estimate takeoff on those items, in addition to reaching out to the subcontractor community. We had wonderful sub-participation in helping us establish our cost estimates for this phase, and did several internal reviews as well. And so these numbers that we present to you today, we feel confident in how they were established, and that we are in a very good place actually to move this project forward. So we've got just a quick little summary here to bring everybody up to speed. So little summary of our schematic design estimate review process that was completed a while back. I can't remember the exact date. So that original estimate came in at just over $30.5 million, which was more than it was expected. So we worked very closely with Waseca's team and the building committee. We had a list of value analysis items that were discussed at length. I believe it took us about 4 hours to get through that list. So very thoughtful consideration and analysis of all of the items that were brought forward to reduce the overall cost of the project. That discussion and effort led to about a $1.7 million cost reduction, which brought us down to a revised estimate of that $28,796,535. So that is the construction cost at the end of schematic design. To that construction value, we added a quote from Streamline. They will be providing all of the low voltage wiring and devices in the building, which includes all of your data jacks, your Wi-Fi access, cameras, intercoms, controls, all those things that'll go into the project. And then at this stage of the game, we'd like to carry just a straight 20% of the overall value for soft costs. That is a placeholder at this point in time, and as those decisions are made and move forward, those become real dollars and no longer a percentage. So a soft cost is anything that's related to fees, special inspections, soil reports, furniture, equipment that goes into the building. And so that straight 20% at SD was that $5 million number. And so that gave us a total project budget at the end of schematic design of just over $35,400,000. So moving forward then, there was a very intense effort, and we would really like to commend Waseca and their design partners. We heard lots and lots of really fantastic comments about how good the design development set of documents were in order to be able to do the most accurate takeoffs and assumptions at this point in time. So it was a wonderful set. And so that, I think, led to a lot of the confidence that we have in moving forward. So our current cost estimate is the $28.6 million number that's at the top of that second column there. Equates to about $165,000 under where we landed for our SD budget. We're continuing to carry the $716,000 low voltage number, continuing to carry the 20% soft cost number, which you can see goes down because it's still just a percentage basis. So that gets us to a total project budget right now of just over $35 million. We have more numbers to back this up. If anybody should want to see them, it can become a lot of information. So we can just stick to the high level summary unless people have specific questions about anything.
I appreciate in our board packet, there's not too many individual numbers associated with, but a long list of what is included so that we can feel confident that we haven't forgotten anything. And I have to say, as one of the members of the building committee, there has been just great partnership with Waseca and with AMP and with county staff to really get established what we need, as opposed to just what we want. And also Waseca and you guys have done a great job in helping us understand what options are and to think long term. Generator, diesel or natural gas, and what is the investment different? What is the operational difference? And some of those bigger ticket items, those we need to think about that, because we're not doing this for 5 years, we're doing this for 30 years and 40 years. And so I really appreciated the process and agree when you come knowing what has gone into this, only my slice of it, I really have some confidence that we know what we're doing.
I agree. Thank you, Commissioner. So any questions on the estimate or the numbers or how it was established at this point? Okay, so then moving on to the balance of the project schedule. Oh, sorry.
Go back.
Yeah, can we you want to do this now, or the schedule?
Sorry, go to the schedule.
Okay. So then moving ahead for the schedule, we're currently tracking two different schedules. We're tracking the design schedule, which is what's up on the screen, and need some stripes.
Just tell me anywhere you want.
Yeah, if we want to go down to that, yeah, there, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you, Michael. So here we are, we're on that kind of salmon colored line, board approval of the design development estimate here on March 3rd. Should the board authorize us to proceed, the next step now will be for the design team to move into contract documents. And that is where the last of the decisions are made, everything is detailed out. The finished schedules are done, the equipment is all sized, all of the final touches are put into the project and fully documented. Specifications are finalized, and it works towards getting us a set of documents that we can send out for competitive bids. So in order to maintain the construction schedule, we have elected as a team to break this into two bid packages. So the first bid package will run, you see there on the dates in the green line, from tomorrow till May the 29th. And that scope of those documents are going to include all of the site work and site utilities. So all the dirt work, site utilities, all of the below grade concrete, so the footings and foundations, and then all of the structural steel, and also the precast, which will be a follow-up conversation here in just a minute. What that will allow us to do is issue those contracts to clear the site, grub the site, excavate out, put the site utilities in the ground, pour the footings and foundation walls, get us prepped for receipt of precast concrete, which will come in the winter months. And so what this is doing is this is allowing us to do the work that we need to do below the ground without it being frozen. So we're not incurring any winter conditions expenses. And then we will be teed up and ready to go for that precast to show up. Precast and steel, precasters actually, well, precast companies, I don't know about the humans, they love to erect precast in the wintertime. We have frozen ground. It allows them to maneuver their equipment, their cranes, And it works out really, really well, to be able to do that. And then the steel erection will follow immediately behind that as a precast wall panels, and the steel work hand in hand to create that structure. So once that work is complete, then we'll have the balance of the project ready to bid out, which will be, or will have been bid, I apologize. So that's in bid package 2. So that's the balance of the design. So it will be all of your finishes, the mechanical, the electrical, any flat work concrete, so that will all follow. And so then come next spring, so about nowish, maybe, we'll be ready to continue working through the underground, plumbing and electrical, and then we'll be able to start slabs. And so this breaking this apart into these 2 bid packages really helps us to expedite that entire construction schedule. And really, once we hit the ground, the lead times, we do this primarily for lead time on the structural components, the steel and the precast. So then once we hit the ground, we don't leave. Once we're mobilized, we stay here, and then this allows us just to continue the project, and we don't have any downtime waiting for the larger pieces of the material to show up. So we're in discussions with the building committee now and administration on how to establish the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, which is the contract type that we as A&P have with you, the county. And so there will be some contract amendments coming your way for approval that will modify the existing contract that will establish those guaranteed maximum prices, the clarifications that were used to establish that, in addition to the overall construction contract. So all of those terms of those amendments are laid out in our contract as it sits right now. So we'll be looking to do that so that we can break ground. That's the design schedule. That very bottom line there that talks about the construction schedule, that lovely 1-line item that indicates 18 months worth of construction, that has been broken apart now. Our superintendent, Jamie, has been hard at work developing a preliminary construction schedule, which indeed is tracking at that 18-month duration. So I don't remember, we have move-in, I think it's the middle of February.
It's in the middle of it.
Middle of February of 2028. What will happen then is everybody will move into the building, and we'll work with Brian to set up abatement for asbestos and hazardous material removals out of the existing LEC. So A&P will basically leave the site. While that happens, we'll get that building cleaned up and safe for demolition. We'll come back, we'll demolish that building, and then we'll finish that site work, which includes the retaining walls around the radio tower, as well as that parking lot on the south side of the new building. And I think we're slated to be early September, I believe is what, if I remember correctly, early September of 2028. You will have 100% brand new, beautiful building to enjoy. So that's kind of the overview on the schedule of where we sit. Any questions on schedule? Sure.
How confident are you in this schedule as far as, we end up with a wet fall or something to get that groundwork done with this schedule? Is there any possibly way that it could get pushed back? It usually gets pushed the wrong way.
Correct. Yeah, I don't foresee us, just based on the next conversation we're gonna have, which is a little bit of a curveball. We've been tossed out by the precasters in the last 3 weeks. I do not see us being able to pull that schedule up to accelerate the precast being on site any sooner. If we do experience wetter weather, yes, that is always a possibility that we are gonna experience weather days. In fact, we live and die by the meteorology group of folks, and sometimes I wish I could have their jobs wrong half the time, right? But so there is each schedule has what's referred to as float built into it, and superintendents never share where their float is, but the schedule is built to absorb some of those unexpected delays that we're going to have. And I don't foresee, with the size of the site, the size of these, the perimeter, the footings and foundations, even if we lost a couple of days here and there to weather, I would not anticipate us seeing any kind of a delay in being ready for that. That's the site.
Good.
Mhm. Okay, so
Talk about.
on to precast. So, material lead times during the pandemic really took a hit. And, since that point in time, thankfully, they've really moderated and they've really come down out of the rafters. It used to be that precast back in 2022, precast lead times were up over a year, of time in order for everybody to get through their production plants. So what happens in the precast world is that a lot of that is referred to in our industry as delegated design. So the design team is going to take the design of the precast, they're going to take it just so far. And then once they get kind of the parameters of that established, then it goes into the precasters engineering department. And the engineers for the precasters will actually complete the design of that from an engineering perspective. So the loads that everything needs to accommodate, the connections that ties the precast together along with the steel, all of that is engineered at the within the contract for the precaster. And then they produce a set of shop drawings that go to the design team for review. At that same point in time, they're also establishing or developing, creating samples. So we'll start with 12 by 12 little sample panels that you can all look at for color and the finishes that are going to go onto the precast. And then ultimately we end up with a 4 by 4, a big sample that will be out here that gets signed off on before anything goes into production. And then once all of those are approved and finalized, then they actually send those panels into production. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's got to happen before they even start fabricating those panels. Once they start fabricating those panels, they'll queue those up in their yard. So once we start erecting out here, which is also under their contract, they both have the provision of providing the panels and installing the panels. Once they start out here, it will just be a steady stream of trucks. And depending on the complexity of the panel layout on any given day, they could place as many as 15 wall panels in a day. So when this kicks off and when precast starts hitting this job site, you're going to go from an empty lot to a building in probably 3 weeks' time. It'll be a pretty crazy fast process once we get started. So we've been tracking these lead times. That's part of what we do, part of our estimating and pre-construction effort. We track the lead times on all the materials. And suddenly out of the blue, we got word from the precast factories that their production times leapt from 6 months to 10 months. The driver appears to be data centers, which coincidentally, I was listening to NPR on the way down, and apparently Google is now looking to Hermantown to build another data center. So these are going up. It's all anybody can talk about are these data centers. So the data centers seem to really be driving the precast demand. In addition to Eric has reached out to a couple of the precasters, so some of the food processing plants and some schools around the state. The precast industry has shrunk over the course of the last probably 10 to 15 years, a lot of mergers. And so we don't have a lot of plants. I can name 4 different precast companies that we deal with in our region. We got estimates from 3 of them. All 3 have said the same thing. Their production calendars are filling for Q1 of 27 faster than they've ever seen it fill in the history of them being in business. So we're in the process of vetting all 3 of these, but we do anticipate coming back to you on March 17th at your next board meeting, asking for a decision to move forward with some type of commitment to a precast company in order for us to maintain that scheduled delivery date of late December, early January for that precast. So depending on right now the information that we're getting, depending on the supplier that we choose, there could potentially be some financial obligation to the county ahead of actually establishing that guaranteed maximum price. But Eric and I have another call tomorrow morning with one of the suppliers, see if we can make that potential go away. But just wanted to make you all aware of it at this point in time. We're gonna stop sharing information at this point, just because we don't have enough accurate information to bring forward to you. But you have my word that we continue to work with these three particular precasters and will be able to provide a much more detailed analysis and recommendation for you in the coming weeks. But this really does, you know, ultimately we can choose to not commit to a precaster at this point in time. That would just push our construction schedule out, which sadly time is money. Any questions on that at this point? I know that's kind of vague and high level.
Go ahead.
When you talk about possible financial obligation, that would just, they want down money because they're so busy, they don't want us backing out. Is that been talked about with all the suppliers?
We have had the conversation with all of the suppliers, and right now one of the three is making that request, which is the one that we have the conversation with tomorrow, that we're hoping that they could maybe.
And that's a non-refundable obligation.
Correct.
We just want to be ready to have that discussion on the 17th and make some decisions.
And we're hoping to have all of the information ready and compiled by the end of this week. So we can get that to the building committee for review and consideration to make sure that we've got all of our bases covered before that becomes a part of your board packet for the next.
Any other questions or? All right, then our action for today. Let me get it in front of me here. Oh, wrong end of the packet here. Let me get back up.
But Madam Chair, if I can just.
Please do.
Clarify that recommendation amendment that we have there, requesting approval for the design development estimate and then granting authority to continue to proceed with the contract documents at this stage.
All right, so that is the ask. And let's have a motion in a second and then let's have discussion.
I'll move it.
Motion by Christopherson,
I'll second it.
second by Krause. Discussion.
I was just wondering about the layout of offices and stuff. I haven't seen anything.
We have that. I got it in my bag. Some of those things, there's still some ability to change where our internal wall is. There's still ability to do those kinds of minor changes. What we're looking at right now is the big picture, outside walls, dirt work. And so I think those are two different discussions, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I am not prepared to go over the floor plans, but we can certainly call them up and have a review of that. I know that Dana is online and I'm sure they'll be happy to jump in at any point in time. If that's something that you'd like to take a look at, happy to. Otherwise, I do know that the building committee's been working, Brian especially has been working really closely with the department heads and confirming their layouts. And we did have a meeting that talked about hardware function. And there is something magical about the discussion on hardware function that really drives a lot of layout and functional discussions. So there were quite a number of changes that occurred after that meeting. So I believe I might be speaking out of turn, Brian, you might want to help me out. That the department heads are happy with their space layouts at this point.
Richard, that was gonna be my question. The department heads, are they pleased with their office areas? Have they discussion with them? And have they mentioned that they're okay with how their designs are, with the space that we have right now?
Every one of the departments have seen their design, and I've gone through, basically furniture layouts, everything with that. And I have not received any, bad feedback at all on the layout. Yeah, I mean, so they all, I mean, we're still, as to a desk can be turned and stuff like that, we're not into that.
No, but I'm office space. Is there square footage? Are they happy with the square footage that they're receiving in this design?
The only outstanding ask I've had was from the county attorney's office on interiors, trying to figure out how to get office or closets, excuse me, within the office spaces because of their demand to have to on occasion run up to court unexpectedly, having a change of clothes. Is that accurate, Rusty?
Yep, that's correct.
Thanks. That's the only one I've been made aware of interior office wise. We had a discussion this last Friday with the department heads and court administration talking about jail implications again as well. So that was a couple hour conversation on more of the philosophical end of the equation, not really relative to the plan itself, more so the implication of how long we're able to keep inmates from the schematic design approval in October, roughly. I think the only thing that has changed that I'm aware of on an interior space was post conversation with the Department of Corrections, which necessitated a day room to be implemented within the jail space proper. So it removed one of the holding cells that was there, created a linens room, created a day room, and changed the ingress egress of processing piece. How deputies in theory would bring in custodies into be fingerprinted, processed, what have you, and then going into the jail property. Dana, you can feel free to chime in if you'd like, if I'm veering off base at all, but very, very little has changed from an interior layout since the last time we had those plans in front of you.
Yeah, that's correct. I know that the attorney's office has wanted to have individual closets. And I can't remember, we moved that around so many times, but I think we just made them a little bit larger, but without the closet, if I recall. I don't know if we can pull those plans up. We can look at those. I could pull them up on my end too.
From my understanding, the furniture aspect, the closets would be accompanied with the furniture.
That part, I just question on the square footage for everybody's space as well. So that's if everybody, department hasn't been met with the building committee and they're good with that, we can move on.
If that's helpful. There's all two floors.
I'll find them, I'll look at them. The square footage is what I'm
Okay.
looking at. I just don't want to be us put into a building and we're already talking about, we don't have enough room, and we gotta build out in 3 to 4 years. That is, I've had constituents ask me that, and I said, I understand this should be sufficient, so.
Yeah, and that's something that was discussed in our meeting Friday as well too. And we aren't building it with excessive space. The square footage footprint hasn't changed since it was last revisited in October. So it's fair to say, I mean, you can approach it different ways, right? You can say it's a concern, you can say it's what we need. Part of that, backing up several years ago at this point when developing that original program was to look at what are the assumed adds over the next 20 years in terms of staff that would then demand some office space. And then probably the sheriff's office layout is the only one that has immediate empty space, or an empty vacant office space. And then we'll have one at the lower level of the dispatch for an assumed growth position for a dispatch supervisor. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but from the whole course of the plan, I think there's only what would be assumed to be 2 empty offices for
There is enough space in this for our new community corrections. How we do probation now compared to how we did it.
Yeah,
6 months ago.
And I just want to, yeah, that's a new kind of,
I mean, if you're looking at office space, I mean, nobody's ever happy with.
I understand.
Square footage, they always want more, but you work with, what.
I understand that. I just, we've been meeting with everybody and everybody's okay with what they have. I just want to make sure, like I said, I don't want to 3 years say, damn, we should have built this, 4,000 square feet bigger. Just
They say every department's looked at their areas, every department has had a conversation as to, can we add this, can we add that? And can we make it bigger, can we make it smaller? And everything has been implemented and they've all seen it. And I have not received any negative feedback on that aspect of it.
I think there's 2 aspects to that. There is how much space, and then there is how the space is designed to be used. And I think through the collaborative efforts with staff and A&P and our staff, this space will be much more functional than what we have. Not only are we getting additional space in some places more, some places less. But the space we have will be really highly functional with some forward thinking involved in that design so that we know that it's not going to stay the same. County operations change. But this traffic flow, people in and out of the building, staff in and out of the building. I'm excited for us to be able to get in this building and live in it, because I think it'll work really well for both staff and for residents. I'm excited for it. Anything else for Carrie and Eric? Okay, we do have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, let's move her ahead. Thanks for being here. All right, and next on our list, resolution 2026-15, establishing a workforce development center advisory committee.
Right, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the conversation there. I think I teed this one up a couple of weeks for you, if not longer, but it is a necessary add for us. As we move forward and we've explored some different project funding pots of money that are out there, there seems to be a consistent theme of the necessity of having an advisory committee that dictates and at least gives some insight to the use of those funds and or the programs and operations of a development center. This is pretty commonplace and consistent with what we do in other of the fringe program and service deliveries that the county participates in. This would be another item added to your subcommittee list going forward, and we don't have a clue yet what the frequency of this meeting schedule would look like. Likely not more than a quarterly, commitment and the kind of the scope and scale of the construction of this resolution is up to 15 members, 2 of which are county commissioners, and then you see a little bit of a breakdown of what that participation could look like. If in the future this necessitates coming back and increasing the size, that's certainly something that can be done. You know, this is the starting point to at least meet the ask or the minimum requirement of its existence to get us into some competitive funding conversations. But we want it to be a rounded participation. We want a blend of education, higher education, local education, manufacturing industry, and or a nonprofit voice. Really all of the stakeholders that we would anticipate having a space and stake in the operation of the Workforce Development Center, both immediately and into the future as we look to evolve in a little bit more of a business incubator type schema. Any questions on this that I can clarify? Hopefully it was fairly straightforward in its construction. But if not, I would look for approval of resolution 2026-13 to establish this advisory.
Sir, you got down, and these are just up to these 15 members.
Up to.
But when you say 2 county staff, who would that, I mean, who did target through?
Most likely myself and Tina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, EDA associated with that.
I didn't want to name it specifically because if something changes in the future, it gives a little bit more flexibility in there. But if you were to ask today, it would be myself and Tina.
Sure. Okay, makes sense. I would move approval of resolution 2026-13.
Second,
Motion by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Next, administration update.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just trying to pull a couple of things. Couple of letters I want to put before you. This letter that you have is an adaptation or a reprisal of a letter of support that we remitted to the city of Waseca in 2024. And it's similar in its construction with some added language that more modernizes where the city is at right now with their project schedule. But ultimately what it's attempting to do is provide a collaborative efforts, a team approach to congressionally directed spending and community project funding that the city will be pursuing with our both state and federal delegates. We've done this on the state side. We've participated in those tours as they've come through town. Just put ourselves aligned with the city as we should with pursuit of water and sewer infrastructure, necessary improvements to their inflow and infiltration, and then construction and pursuit of a water tower to provide relief, especially within the context of building out the western interchange. So this is a document that has been put together, and ultimately it's something that I plan on moving forward and seeking your signature on. As has been commonplace in the past, I bring these up in the administration updates and kind of put it to you as, here's what I'm planning on doing. Do you have any problems or concerns with that approach? Again, this is something that has been done already. The model isn't changing. There's no reason in my mind that we would not continue to partner with the city in pursuit of this. They requested support for the school district from a couple of local businesses and manufacturers as well. So well in line with where we have gone in the past and where I'd expect us to continue to go in the future. Any questions on that at all? Straightforward. Second is a response letter that we are looking to remit to the Department of Natural Resources in the vein of our Unified Development Code. So there's been some challenges in the timeliness of response. By rule, the DNR has 10 days essentially to remit response to us when we're seeking to make some amendments, especially under the umbrella of our shoreline ordinance, which is what this mostly focuses on. The subcommittee has taken this up on a couple of occasions, Planning and Zoning Subcommittee, given any comments. Chris Howard and Tina worked together collaboratively to put together this response. And ultimately where we're at right now is my request to just bring this to the board for review and or consideration. I've had a conversation with Commissioner Moulter in terms of maybe it'd be nice to have you sign this just so there's another voice in the conversation. So they know that the staff we're bringing this before the commissioners and or subcommittee to try to make a collective effort here. The challenge it makes for us in practical terms is essentially we get past that by rule period of review. We get into the stages of the implementation, and then all of a sudden we receive a response that says, we'd like you to change these dozen things that you sent us, even though we're already implementing them. So there are some, I will say even most of these things that come back are, we'd really like you to do this, but there isn't a statutory reason why. We would just like it to be this way. Most of those items in this letter, we will say thank you, but no thank you. We think we have a good plan moving forward. There were a couple of those items that we said, yeah, I guess that probably makes sense. We should maybe reprise it that way and have adopted them. So that's all captured within the body of this. And really the only reason I really bring it to you is because of this nice little signature line here in terms of my intent and or ask is for Commissioner Moulter to sign off on this with the recommendation of the subcommittee, which you individuals certainly can chime in if you have any other concern or question post review from that. Questions? Comments?
I had a chance to review this last week and understand that the Planning and Zoning Subcommittee has had a good look at this, recommends that we move forward with this. We've talked in our meetings before publicly about the fact that we want to regulate what we need to regulate, but we don't want to regulate what we don't need to regulate. I also appreciate that while the DNR, they have their way of saying things, the fact is the language that we put in this ordinance needs to match with the language and definitions we have in the rest of our code. And they're asking us to use some different language and different regulation that then doesn't give us uniformity across our code too. I mean, words matter. And so to have continuity throughout our entire unified development code, because it is a unified development code, that's why some of the suggestions from the DNR just don't make sense for us because they don't match the rest of our code and they will make it confusing for our staff and for residents. So personally, I don't have any hesitation moving this forward. But we want to be able to have comfort that the whole board is like philosophically we're agreeing on this.
Yeah, being on the subcommittee, we've talked about this quite a bit now, and we've got 3 staff members that have went through this with a fine tooth comb and established whether some of the things that the DNR can kind of make it sound like is required, or it's really probably optional, but they would like to see it in there. So I think we've had enough eyes on this that it's accurate and we're within our constraints to do what we're asking here. So I don't have any issue with that getting sent. Anytime we, this, like you said, DNR looks at things differently than we do. And, we gotta meet it.
Yeah, and they're not reading the rest of our codes. They're looking at this in isolation, and they're not looking at the rest of our codes, so.
Are you looking for an action or a recommendation?
No, this isn't
No,
an
just
action. I just want to make sure that everybody's
Yeah,
comfortable.
and that's why I presented the way, this is what I plan on doing. You know, these conversations have been had, just want everybody to have eyes on it or chime in if there's any concern or at times constituents call you, say different things, and I may not know of that or be aware of it. So I just want to make sure everybody has the chance to chime in.
Commissioner Hargit?
Michael Reed said that to me. And that's the form letter it is,
For sure.
please.
No, I appreciate, I'm sorry, Chair.
No, go
I
ahead.
appreciate what staff has done. We got a well-qualified staff that puts this stuff together. And then, they'll send it to the DNR and then it'll come back. They'll always want something more or add something to it, and it gets kind of irritating. So I think this is a real good thing that we, and make a statement.
It sounds like we've had a lot of staff time put into this to try to get it right.
We don't need to spend any more staff time.
So this has been sent before, staff has contacted them.
There's been several conversations about it, yes.
And is it always the same person that they're contacting? Or is it?
This is a higher up approach in this letter to Mr. Colander. We've had several conversations with area regional staff.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had 2 official responses from the DNR.
Okay.
Yeah.
In both sides.
They told us what they wanted in there. And we readjusted some of the things we took in, we did bring in, took out, sent it back to them. Then they came with new asks, moved beyond what the first one. So they've added stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where we got kind of frustrated.
Following the staff that are working on this. Like,
Since the fall, probably October, maybe.
okay, but
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably got 4 months into it already.
Yeah, this isn't a, oh, we're suddenly mad. This is a, holy moly, we've been working on this a long time.
well, I remember Tina talking about it. I just didn't know the timeline.
Yeah. All right. Next on your list, Mike?
Yeah, so we have some legislative meetings happening. We had a lot of good conversation with our federal delegates in DC, and we'll look to have a lot of good conversation with our delegates in the state. Back here. So just reviewing the schedule, I sent this to you yesterday, but just, you look at the practicality of some of these times, and there's going to have to be a little bit of a divide and conquer mentality tomorrow. And there's also some recurring themes that, we want to make sure we get touch points with all of our delegates as it pertains, especially to local option sales tax. So we have, the draft of that bill. It's been submitted, it's been filed. That's the actual reviser's copy and form right there. It chatted twice with Representative Sexton last Friday as well on that. A hearing has been requested on both the House and Senate side. So we want to make sure that we're thanking our delegates for the support in authoring that bill, ensuring the 3 that didn't have direct authorship, that being Dornick, Bennett, and Allen, making sure that they are supporting it as it moves through, working alongside individuals they're kind of rubbing shoulders with, if you will, in those various committees and rooms, advocating for Waseca County, getting more support for Waseca County as this thing continues to move towards a hearing. And on that note, we do not know when that hearing is or will be. And I would like at least a couple of individuals to be the people that are called to say, We gotta be up at the Capitol tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Because that's probably how it's gonna happen. We'll know the day before. If we're lucky, the day before, if not being called in the morning saying, we got an open slot at 1:30, we're talking about your bill. So there will be a sense of urgency when that happens. So I just want us to be thinking in that realm. And if there's a couple of you specifically that want to be the ones to go up and talk to this, that's awesome. You can obviously make me talk too. That's your prerogative, but it's, I think, a little bit more impactful at times when it's the commissioners or the elected official representing their area. Not that I can't be sitting there too, but that's really our chief thing here, right? We have several things to talk about, but that's the one we want to make sure we talk about in all of those spaces. Second, on Friday, we saw the updated budgetary forecast come out from the state, which increased that budget surplus by $1.269 billion, which is a lot of money. And it is a very convenient time now to piggyback what we talked a lot about at the federal level, which was HR 1, the big beautiful bill, which ultimately we know has a lot of impact on SNAP, Medicaid, shifts that are ultimately going to affect every single county in the US, but affect Minnesota counties a little differently and uniquely. And the position and definition right now of error rates creates some winners and losers across the nation. And being one of those unique state managed, county administered programs that we have in the state, we are very much compoundedly impacted by the state of our state managed systems, our computer systems that are archaic and dysfunctional and hard to use. We've met some resistance because it's a big price tag, right? Over the last couple of years, it's been a recurring theme: systems modernization and human services. There was a modicum of an appropriation in the 2025 session, which is good, but probably, 20% at most of what it needs to be to just start to get across the finish line. And this is a multi-year thing anyway. So if we don't start now, we're going to be 5 years from now before, we have more of a chance to even talk about this, because right now it's great. You have this, $3.734 billion surplus outlook right now. That's the current budgetary outlook of the state, contrasted against a roughly the same amount, 3.357 structural deficit in 28 and 29. So if we don't secure funding in 26 and 27, nobody's going to want to talk about it in 28 and 29. We're going to be 30 and 31 before we get to talk about it again. So the time is kind of now to really shift to systems modernization again and get that in front of every one of our delegates across the state, because the impacts of HR 1 at the federal level are going to be very real and significant. And they will only be compounded by the impacts we will inevitably see for human services support at the state side in 28 and 29, because there's only a couple places you make up a $3.3 billion deficit, and human services is one of them. So those are kind of the top two in my mind right now that we have to hammer on consistently. Representative Sexton has a couple side projects and bills that staff have been helping and supporting on. One of them has to do with kind of in and around the solar realm. He asked some permission to use the exact language actually in our UDC code, just because it was written well constructed to put right in the draft of that bill. But really, it's just the focus is just giving counties the authority and the tools they need to implement and enforce regulations in those solar gardens. You know, Waseca County right now has 21 solar gardens with 2 more pending. So it's a big footprint. And we want to make sure that we are thoughtful in how we are able to manage, and we have the tools needed to enforce as needed to make sure that they are maintained. Those sites are cleaned up and maintained as necessary. I also want to make sure that if you have any specific things you want, we'll put together the rest of those packets this afternoon. We'll have those for you. I'll let you folks discuss a little bit how you want to divide and conquer this. It doesn't necessarily have to be done right now. But really it's those 230 to 245 slots that we're talking about. They've designed it pretty intuitively here though, so it's not like we're not having to go from Senate building to Capitol Vault or Centennial, which is a little bit more of a hike, but Centennial to Capitol Vault isn't as big a deal. Yes, sir.
Are these times, individual, just Waseca County, or are they tied with other counties?
It's almost a guarantee that the Senate visits will be with at least one other county.
You're not sure on the representatives.
I'm guessing they'll throw Steele County in with Sexton, with Bennett. I'm not entirely sure. Haven't heard on that one.
Well, I'll try to take it.
Okay. And there's some nuance here. This is Representative Bennett's last year. So there's a little bit of a shift in thought and how you craft and present that messaging too. Representative Allen is one that's usually a text message away, and you know, he'll gladly come and meet us wherever we are, as will Representative Sexton. And some of it'll be prepared for these to change, you know, between now and tomorrow, because as bills get called, votes get called, you know, these schedules inevitably shift a little bit. So, but anything else you absolutely want a bit of a write-up on walking into any of those rooms from a legislative standpoint? There's a bill out there right now to make the toboggan the official sled of Minnesota.
Yay.
Didn't quite meet the cut of the priorities.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things out there to talk about. It's not just those 2 or 3 things. There are a lot of other things out there. It's just how much time do we have? And it's easy to have that AMC priorities list for the state included in that packet to point at and reference as we're handing off as well.
Go ahead.
We won't get the package till tomorrow morning. Can you send something out for our emails, just a bullet point
Yes, I'll send you something this afternoon.
Excellent. Well,
So when's everybody going?
I'm going up to Sacramento for the MRC meeting at 5.
And late tonight though.
I'm going to Sacramento, I'm going to MRC.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I attended the, testify one last.
Testimony training.
Yeah, last year.
It's a good training.
Thanks.
I mean, I didn't have gotten to do it, but I got to watch part of it and thought it was a good teaching. Yes, sir.
one other thing, Madam Chair, and I do not want to take any of the power away from the board chair. On the letter that's going out to Mr. Colander, should we all the names at the bottom of the sign? Does it have any more teeth? Do they?
So it doesn't hurt anything, that's for sure. If you're willing, that's all right.
That's.
No,
that's
and-
the chair.
And I appreciate that, and I would be happy to sign on behalf of the chair or the whole board. I didn't want to presume to sign on behalf of the whole board if there was any hesitation that we should send this letter.
No.
So if
You want all of them.
I'm hearing that there's no hesitation to send that letter to the DNR, then we could list everybody's name there, and I'll just sign on behalf of the board.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
We're just talking about this, and I only bring this up to show you that we took a very consolidated approach through BMC. I mean, we got the top three things going on. And we were just talking about this one, and this one is just all the more important right now after that forecast was updated. Talked about this one, and it ties directly into the one above it in terms of SNAP and Medicaid, and then MAPA still. There are a few bills that are out there that do a lot of different things. I don't think anybody realistically thinks there's going to be a clawback for this, but working within the constraints, if you will, of what this law invokes, there are a smattering of bills that try to soften the implication, or at least give a little bit better definition for the implications within the act. So this will be in your folder as well too, but I just mentioned that, I think these two have already effectively talked about. App is a good one to bring up as well too, like, hey, anything that just at least gives some more clarification to counties for what does this mean and what are the implications to staff and budgets is helpful.
Yeah, and you'll notice the technology and both of these things are in social services. I mean, and the being able to do the act and even deal with the SNAP Medicaid issues, that all comes down to having tools, modern tools to do it. So,
yeah, everything. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this top one impacts so many different things, and it's hard. Everything else is just kind of a band-aid if you don't get some modernized technology to administrate everything else that's happening. So those will be in there too.
we're hiring college graduates to work on a green screen. You can't use a mouse with green screen. Can you imagine?
There's some interesting stuff happening in the e-waste world as well too that may have an impact in how we do business at solid waste and recycling. Jim's aware of those, but things to continue to track and be aware of. I don't think it rises to the level of we need to get this in front of our delegate right now. But some rules and regs that we'll want to be aware of because they potentially impact how we do business. Anything else? Anything else that you want in that list other than what we're talking about or have been talking about? Okay, cool. I will get you an email this afternoon. I'll have packets with you. As to your question, I have donuts with dad with a 3-year-old tomorrow morning at 8:30. So
Very important.
So I'll head up to the Capitol right when that's done, and I'll probably meet you to jump on a shuttle at the hotel or touch base with you, depending upon what the traffic outlook is to park at AMC and walk across the street or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're running too late to jump on a shuttle, then by all means park at AMC, that works great.
Yep.
You're a couple blocks away. The folders, I'm always concerned about paper. You're going to bring those with you tomorrow?
Yes, but I will send you copies of everything that will be in them this afternoon.
Okay,
But I will bring physical folders for you to hand to delegates.
perfect.
And I can bring you individual folders as well too. But if you want to reference the virtual and you're comfortable with not printing them yourself, we'll bring you a copy too. Yes.
Who wants their own folder? Or can we do it digital?
I'd like a
Me too, I guess.
Do folders.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right, there you go.
And just to clarify now, my goal for tomorrow is to not talk. So if you want me to, just
Good luck.
Oh,
Holy cow.
they don't want to talk to me. They want to talk to you.
He did a great job in DC, because I know, I could see, oh my goodness, that one meeting, whew, yeah, and, yep. First rate,
Is that what the USDA
yeah,
should have known that?
oof,
Yes, it was.
that'll be an interesting meeting. But anyway, thank you for making sure we got all the paper we need.
Yep.
Anything else for us, Michael, before we go off tomorrow? And we have time to do commissioner reports, so we're gonna do that.
Nothing for me.
Okay.
You have a community update, in your email inbox. You have the HR update for the,
Oh, yes, yeah, I should probably check that. Let's see. Oh, yeah,
resignation. We're, advertising right now for an engineering technician to get a good candidate there. And, nothing huge happening in the recruiting world right now.
okay. I do want to mention, from our human resources update, because we usually like to recognize out loud the folks who are have zeros and fives at the end of their numbers. And, Christopher Hinton, our veteran service officer, has been with us now for 10 years. And he's doing great work, including as immediate past chair of the NACO affiliate for veteran service officers. And so he's speaking well for veteran service officers on a national level and doing great work locally. All right, then let's get on to commissioner reports. And I'm looking to see Commissioner Hardwick, would you be ready to go?
I will. We're going back to the 17th.
Yes, we should go.
All right. 9:30 board at 4 PM. I went up to the Excel Energy Center for the that's real blank. It was for the
Chamber.
The chamber day.
The
that
chamber
they had.
legislative day.
Yes.
Yes.
The whole legislators up there, priority session. There we go.
Awesome.
That was good. A lot of people there. Yeah, it was a very, very good time to meet them also. Wednesday, the 18th, we went to Wells to visit their precast plant. Very interesting down there. Had not been there before. Friday, the 20th, we had a 10:30 AM meeting here in the East Annex with Winseth Interiors. Went through some of that. Saturday, the 21st, left for NACO. Out there until Wednesday evening. We had a meeting here on Friday, the 27th. About the Judicial Center and then Cheryl Clevenger's retirement. That's gonna bring me to, well, yesterday, Monday the 2nd, we had a 10 AM Justice Center meeting. That was remote. That was to go over pretty much what we talked about today. So with that being said, the rest of the week is going to be some AMC.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Hargit.
Thank you.
Commissioner Christopherson.
Okay. Yeah, after our board meeting on the 17th, we had men for still coming. 18th, the next day, we had an HRA virtual meeting. You were virtual. No, you didn't make that.
I couldn't make it.
That's right.
Yeah, I was in the middle of Wells concrete visit.
That's right. But we're still moving forward with dissolving that organization. Then it gets us all the way to the 21st, where we went out to NACO on Saturday. We got back on midday, the 25th. NACO. So we had some legislative visits out there and some work sessions and hopefully productive. Never quite know, but hopefully it's worth our time. And then that gets us all the way to yesterday when we had a P&Z subcommittee meeting. And it gets us to today.
Commissioner Krause.
The 18th, we had EDA in the morning at 8:30. And then, that evening I did go down to Wells. They had, from Wells, they had a, rifle shotgun meeting down there.
Hotel.
So it went down there. And they had probably 30 people there.
Right.
So that was good. The 20th, I met up with Caitlin over in Janesville. Working on getting a grant program through the EPA for capability limits. The 23rd, we had a P and Z meeting in the morning, HRC at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And the 27th was Shell's retirement. And yesterday morning, we had 8:15 PNZ meeting once again. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Milburn.
Back on the 17th, we met with the sheriff in the morning. We had the board meeting. EDA meeting I was not at because I was meeting with Congressman Finstead down in Austin. On the 21st, I had coffee with the commissioner and we had an art centers meeting. On the 24th was supposed to be a tourism meeting that was canceled. On the 25th, I attended, I'm part of the Waseca's EDA task force. And to top on top of that, we are planning, or they are planning to get a meeting together to have all elected individuals and some county staff to attend a meeting that ICS, it's a legacy company that's putting a background on to help Waseca County expand. Not sure when that will be sent out, hopefully soon. They want a quick turnaround on that. On the afternoon on the 25th, I had Waseca Area Foundation. On the 27th, I attended Cheryl's retirement. I was at the BMW for Frosty.
Congratulations, Frosty.
The 28th was the Slang Cutter Parade. We served food, part of the Waseca Area Foundation, and coffee with the commissioner. And that brings us today with just a work session and board meeting.
Thank you. Back on the 17th, board meeting and then Inventory Finance Committee, which I am chairing this year, and Inventory Joint Powers meeting. On the 18th, I joined Commissioner Milbreath down in Austin for the Finstead Roundtable event on a bill that he is sponsoring, HR 5944, that would change the IMD exclusion from 16 beds to 36 beds. Right now, Medicaid will not pay for someone to be hospitalized for a mental health illness if the building is more than 16 beds. This is a regulation that goes back to the mid-60s when conditions and mass institutionalization of folks with mental illness was common. And so they put this in place. Well, we're not there anymore, and 16 beds is a real limitation to being efficient. So he's sponsoring a bill, and there's other bills out there too. So it was interesting to listen. There was a lot of sheriffs there. Then I had to cut out of there early and go over to Wells Concrete and get a tour over there, and then came back here to Waseca for a Labor and Personnel Committee meeting. 19th, I went up to the Twin Cities and did AMC and walked over to the Capitol. Local Public Health Association had their day at the Capitol, and as the chair of SHAC, it's good to show up and be a partner with them and encourage them. So I did that. And then took part in a virtual meeting for the data modernization work group that SHAC is sponsoring. And this is another place where we're talking about data and how to get it and how to use it and what the technology is. that we have. On the 20th, we had a meeting here at the annex to go over the interiors for the new building and to look at what the design kind of would be there. And that was really exciting. I want to thank staff that have done a lot of work and this is particularly on our administrator and our administrative staff have done a lot of work on branding to help us have some consistency in color and design across all our very many buildings from different eras in the county. And we want our new building to be reflective of that same branding. We want it to be really the flagship of what, when people walk into one of our buildings, we want them to just, it's intuitive that this looks like it's Waseca County. And so it gave a lot of good foundational stuff to the Waseca team to be able to work on design. Then headed up to the airport and caught a late flight. And it was late and it ran late out to DC so that I could be there for my health steering subcommittee, which ran all day on Saturday. But giving up some sleep to get there was good and important that I could be involved all day. I'm going to just mention a couple things that the Minnesota delegation did out at NACO, and we were all part of that those of us that went out. Minnesota delegation met in caucus on Saturday evening. Get a chance to see who's out there from Minnesota and make connections and talk about different counties and who they were seeing and what we were emphasizing, and just make sure we were on the same page for our legislative visits. Julie and AMC always do a bang up job at having us be well organized out there to speak not only as individual counties, but as a state. You're not surprised I did a bunch of health and human services stuff. We, Waseca County, were instrumental in helping to get a meeting with USDA and talk about error rates and our technology in Minnesota, and we had some really strong support from AMC to go into that meeting. I wish it would have been a more productive meeting, but we showed up well prepared and it was good. Legislative visits, and we did have good legislative visits. We got time face to face with Senator Klobuchar and with senior staff from other legislators out there, so that was great. Those of us that could stay did for our legislative breakfast with our Minnesota legislators, which AMC helps organize Wednesday morning. We got a chance to hear from most of the legislators. I think there was only 3 that we didn't hear from, maybe. Trying to think. And one of them, yeah, she had to leave. She was there and then had to leave for a vote on the floor. Couple of Metro ones that didn't get a chance to come in, but we got a chance to hear from all of them that were there, and it was most of them. 26th, I had a conversation with Sarah out at Public Health about the work that's going on in the CHB, that innovation grant, and how that's coming along. It was great to hear from her and get a heads up on that. 27th, I had a SHAC meeting, a virtual meeting, then met with Tina to talk about that letter to the DNR. We had a meeting here to talk about the judicial building with some of the department heads involved, and then Cheryl Clevenger's retirement. And yesterday we had we reviewed the estimate that came before the whole board this morning with Seth and A&P to make sure we're on track for that. And I was up in the cities yesterday afternoon for a joint leadership team with MBH and LPHA. And here we are today. We got a CHB advisory board meeting this afternoon. I think we do. Or did that get changed?
Next Monday, isn't it?
Maybe it got
Next
changed
Monday
for
or
me.
Tuesday, or what's done now?
Oh, yeah. No, that got changed to Monday morning.
Yep.
Oh, that'll make my afternoon much easier.
It's on that advisory. It would be,
You too.
Yeah, the two of us and administrators.
Right.
Yeah, that got moved to the night. It's good I mentioned that because I would have driven over to Waterloo.
it is, yeah, because it wasn't on my radar.
All right,
Could I make one
Please.
comment about NACO?
Absolutely,
This is
please
kind
do.
of ironic, we, were in the Senate building, right? And
Yeah.
talking to Tina Smith's staff. And who do we run into but Tony Martin? So we go all the way up to DC and see Tony. Which was, he walked by us and just waved, and then when we split up from Tina's staff, he came back over and talked to us, and he was over there trying to get some money for 218 going through town. There's some contamination from the elevator. So he's trying to get money to get that cleaned up. But it was kind of ironic to see somebody so close to home out in DC.
Absolutely. Well, I think what we're finding is that old saying, either show up or your lunch. You know, you either have a seat at the table or your lunch, and if we want good things to come back to Waseca County, we have to go out and ask for them. And so I appreciated the time that fellow board members of the administration took to go out and make a strong case that Waseca County is worth investing in. Yeah. Sir?
I have one question. Is there any talk of the pay plan? Any changes coming to it?
There's some probably bills to it, yeah. Again, it's one of those things that it's never gonna get clawed back, but
Because there's small employers paying into it that'll, people that'll never use it. There's government people that'll never use it. There's, but. And how many dollars has actually been paid into it already? And how is it getting used, or is it being? It's just a general question I wanted to throw out there, just that everybody's aware of.
Well, let's see, what time are we going to lunch?
No, I just threw it out. I don't want any answers. I just thought I'll throw it out there and people can think about it.
it's definitely being used, yes. The bill I'm more expecting to pop in over the next month is, would be more money. That would be the critical narrative, but I have no idea in terms of its total utilization capacity. I know that there's at least one bill out there looking for a broader scope of exemption for, I'm sure some of the groups you're talking about.
Would be nice, because it's costing those small businesses and those people a lot of dollars. Then they're paying for somebody else's,
Absolutely.
somebody else. That is there. So, anyway. Okay, I'm done.
That's okay. Anything else? If not, I would look
So
for a motion
motion, Dr. Rossi.
to adjourn. Thank you, Commissioner Krause.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Christopherson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. I didn't think so. We are adjourned.